Hello and welcome to this Hangout on Air, this taste challenge between early times and ancient age. I'm trying to set up the chat. Now, early times was introduced in 1860 and ancient age 1936. Now, they're saying on the Sazerac website, Buffalo Trace and whatnot, that it's 1946, but there's clear evidence that it's 1936. And I wrote to the company and they said they were going to look at what I sent because there's newspaper and magazine advertisements from the 30s, okay, about ancient age, Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey. So it's pretty obvious they didn't run advertisements 10 years before the liquor came out. And there was even advertisements during World War II saying all the ancient age that you're going to be drinking is, we started aging it before the war. Which in the case of the United States means before December 7, 1941. So good deal before 1946. Anyway, they're both 80 proof. They're both bottled in Kentucky and distilled aged and bottled in Kentucky. Now, Early Times is a Brown-Forman brand and Ancient Age is a Sazerac brand. Buffalo Trace, right? Buffalo Trace. It was one of those things that they got, one of the brands they acquired when they bought Shenley Distilling, which they renamed Buffalo Trace right after they bought it in 1992. Okay, so it was Shenley Distributing and they renamed it Buffalo Trace. Ancient Age. Okay. A little bit more information. They're both aged 36 months. Okay, so they're similar in price. This is $8.99. This is about $9.99 or $10.99. So it may be $1 difference. Aged 36 months. One is a bourbon, one is not sold as a bourbon in the USA because now the appearance is, yeah, the same, that gold amber. Ancient Age is aged. Ancient Age is aged in first used, never before used, charred white oak barrels. Oh, and by the way, they're not required to use white oak. That's a preferred type for whatever reason. Probably makes the stuff taste the best or doesn't interfere with the flavors. It does have to be charred. Now, the Early Times is aged in used barrels, okay? So there's a difference, or as they call it on the bottle, reused cooperage. Now, we did an examination of Early Times this week. Myself and William Kepley. John and Neil was not able to join. And but then Dr. Dave made a comment. He said, do you need to spend an hour examining Rotgut whiskey? Why? I said, well, we didn't consider it Rotgut. That's the first problem. There are some like that I guess are really, those are usually your 80-20 blends and they're very cheap. And they're not bad. They're just flavorless, more or less. Essentially, or to a large extent, flavorless, I should say. And it wasn't a question of time, really. We were just relaxing and having a leisurely examination on a Friday night. So it was nothing about, well, we have to do this fast. Those long hangouts that people do, me included, myself included, I can understand, you know, some people might want to watch and other people say, I'm not watching something that long. Perfectly understandable because I don't even watch most of those things. You know, How could you do it? How could you just watch that all day? I mean, I'll watch a football game, and that's 3.5 hours worth. But, you know, even when you're doing that, you're getting up, you're fooling around with other things, you're watching it, but you're not totally locked in. I mean, unless it's like the national championship game and it's your team. And I'll go to a lot of games and you can focus better at the game. Unless you brought a smartphone and then you're focusing on the phone and you glance at the game occasionally. I noticed that. I look around these stadiums. People are on their phone all the time. Facebook. Oh, yay. Anyway, I'm thinking, I don't know why you came to the game. Sipping on some good old Deschutes Red Ale myself, says Isaac Rockmore. Cheers, brother. Cheers back to you. Oh, yeah, that Deschutes Red Ale, that is a fine item. Okay, well, I mixed these up, blab my mouth. I do that on purpose, blab, talk, distract myself from the liquor or the beer, or, you know, if I'm doing that. I never do wine challenges. But why? Because I don't want to make a mistake and know which is which. Okay, so I don't think this is going to be too easy of a contest, honestly, and there's a good chance I'll get it wrong, right? 50-50 chance, but just a good chance that I won't be able to distinguish the two. Oh, and another thing, like William was talking last night, he said those cheaper ones, like say the Heaven Hill Kentucky whiskey, which is very popular, but I mean, it's cheap. They'll have more of a antiseptic medicinal aroma, just like he said, emergency room. Whereas these will have more of a caramel, rich oak, vanilla. You'll have a better quality nose. And some people don't care about the nose and the flavor because they're doing mixed drinks anyway. So if you're just only doing mixed drinks and you're buying liquor purely for the 80 proof, well, yeah, of course, I can see you would go with the rock bottom price. It doesn't make it Rotgut. But that term comes from people, mainly that comes from when people used to drink rum all day in the United States. Before the Germans arrived in the 1840s, people would just sip shots of rum all day. The water was unsafe to drink. I said sip on rum, but it was very caustic to their internal system. And they call it Rotgut. So it was a big problem with that. Then when the Germans arrived with their lagers, which was a revolution to America, like a very novel thing. Americans didn't have a whole lot of experience with beer, especially those Pilsner lagers, Pilsner style lagers, the lighter lagers. So that revolutionized the industry, and it revolutionized drinking, and it was encouraged by temperance societies, right? Saying, yeah, this is only about 4.5%, 5% alcohol, and you don't need to be sipping on rum all day. So that was favored by the temperance. Now, when you had the more extremist and radical elements taking over the movement in the late 1800s, early 1900s, you had your prohibitionists. You'll notice that with a lot of political and social movements. You'll have moderate people starting it out with, then you have these radicals. They want to use the power of the government to tell you what to do, you know, and they're going to make your state do it. You know how that goes. We don't want to get into a political thing too much. Okay, we've got a little time here. I want to watch the news at the top of the hour. So the one on my left is richer, and the one here it's fine, but it's muted in the aroma, honestly. There's not a whole lot of wood or vanilla or oak. A little bit. Why do you got in the fight tomorrow? Oh, who do you got? You mean tonight, the fight tonight? I don't know. I guess Mayweather will probably win. I haven't watched boxing for so long. 30 years ago, I watched it, and I could tell you all about different fighters and everything. Okay. Yeah, the taste is woody. Well, we talked about that last night. I kept talking about toothpick wood, little char, just a common flavor. What we said, commonly associated with whiskey, or as William said, a template. It's a template flavor. If you're looking for anything exotic or, you know, fabulous or exquisite, Oh, well, you're not going to get that for $8.99 or $9.99, frankly. There's a lot of crossover between these. This one has a flatter taste though, and I don't mean flat like, I mean that it's how do I describe it? It's not as caramel. It's just more of a muted type thing, even more into what we experience with Canadian Mist. So I thought when I would do this that they would be so much the same. But when you sit down and do these, and like William said, day to day, your taste change. You slept well one night, you didn't sleep so well the night before, you ate different food, or you're in a good mood or you're bad mood, you're worried about something. So this all can be factors. And you cannot eliminate all these variables. You just cannot. So you do the best you can, and at the end of the day, as they like to say on the news, it doesn't really matter anyway, because what you're doing is not so important. You just do the best. It's for entertainment purposes only. Honestly, there's no other, there could be no other real purpose. I mean, it's fun to do it, but it has no real importance. There is no importance with this, unless one's a seller, you're in the distribution business, or you're retailing it, or you're producing it. Yeah, then it's important. If you're a consumer like myself, it's you don't really have any real pressure on you. So of course you don't want to fail in the test. So they're not the same. Similar, not the same. This one's richer. This one's not as rich. Both taste fine though. It's nothing offensive or off-putting, or wouldn't turn me off from rebuying it. The only reason I'm never going to rebuy these is because you'll never get through all the brands. It's just not going to happen. If I lived 500 years, I may do it. When you just jump in brand to brand to try them all, there's not much chance you're going to retry it unless you're at someone's house and they say, hey, you want to retry it? Something like that. I think, okay. More wood here. Wow, I tell you. Maybe the more wood is a tip off that it's the ancient age, just because it's using the new wood, the first used barrels. But it's a tie in quality, enjoyment level, approachability, all that. It's a dead tie. So shop price. What do we say with all of these? Generally, these taste challenges: shop price, shop price, shop price. And there'd be no reason for me to take that back, because they're so similar. Okay, so I'm going to say one more sip and then I'm going to call it. And I think I'm going to throw in the towel on being overconfident. I've gotten slapped in the face a few times with that problem, saying I know, I just know, and then get so embarrassed. Okay, I think this is the early times, and I think this is the ancient age, because I think the ancient age has a little more woodiness, but we're about to find out. Nope, this is the ancient age, and that's the early times. So you say, well, it was a 50-50 shot anyway, so that's true. Initially, it's a 50-50 shot, but then when you start tasting it and evaluating it, then those come into play and can sway you one way or the other. So I just couldn't tell. I mean, it's not like I've been drinking these two whiskeys for 25 years either. So you don't garner a huge amount of experience just sipping in or whatever. But that you don't get the experience if you don't get the experience, right? Right? You can't learn if you don't learn. So people might say, oh, I'm sick of looking at him doing these taste challenges on these Dawn Busters taste challenges. I can understand that. but no one's compelled to watch either. I'm not obligated to do the videos, but I just do them because it's sort of like practice. So on the other hand, by the time I get used to the taste of Ancient Age, then I'll be finished with it. I won't have any more, but maybe I'll have it in a memory bank some kind of way. All right, so win some, you lose some. And when you're doing blind taste tests, the chances of winning and losing, the chances of losing are strengthened to a large extent, especially with very similar products. I mean, if I was doing an Imperial Stout and a light lager, that would be no kind of contest. But when you're doing two things that are almost identical, then get ready to fail on the internet live. Okay, so that's it for this today. Tomorrow, and that could get changed, but the proposed time is tomorrow at 5:30 Central AM, and doing early times versus Jethro T. Boots. What's going to be better? I would say it'd probably be similar, you know. Who's going to win? Will I be able to tell them apart? It's doubtful. I mean, with only two, it's possible. But on the other hand, they're the same price, so it doesn't really matter anyway. I mean, when you get both of them for $8.99, what difference does it make? The only difference is if one is like ghastly, horrible, and the other one is fat, you know, or let's say tolerable, you're going to go with the one that's tolerable. But these are far from just tolerable. They're enjoyable. They're both enjoyable. They're both good. So, but I did say the Ancient Age was a little more flavorful, but that's when I thought it was the early times. Ha ha. Ha ha ha. But for such a small amount of money, I guess I'd just absolutely look at what's the better price on the shelf and grab one. I don't think you can go wrong either way with either one of these products. Good job, Buffalo Trace / Sazerac Company. And good job. Yeah, it says the Early Times Distillery. Yeah, good job, Brown-Forman. Keep up the good work, folks. Now, Isaac, before I go off air here, hands down, what's your favorite liquor? Says Isaac. It's hard to say hands down because I haven't had enough experience with liquor. Being a novice, I can't even say it with beer, really. But I would probably have to say, so far, well, the best I've had so far, I'm not going to bring in the Four Roses limited edition. Was it age 12 years? Or the Pappy Van Winkle 12-year, because those were small and I only had them once each. They were fabulous, you know, from that little isolated experience. They were fabulous, okay? And I was glad the person donated those to me to try, because they're about, you know, $70, $80, $90, $100, $110. One guy said, no, that's like $110 for that special edition, limited edition Four Roses. So I was glad they have the little samples. But for just regular, the ones I've tried on my own that I purchased, I would say so far it's either the Paul Masson VSOP, which is aged 4 years in the bourbon barrels, or how about, let's say, Hennessy Black. Oh, that Hennessy Black was mighty fine. All right, thanks for watching, folks. Now it's time for the news.